What a beautiful day to be out on the bank. Now, those of you that have been following the channel, and there's quite a few of you now, thank you very much to all the new subscribers. If you're not a subscriber, please think about it. But those of you that have been following the channel will know that I've been loving my silverfish sport at the minute. Getting bites is what it's all about for me at this time of year, being active. But I'm missing my carp fishing. I'm missing getting my string pulled by some bigger fish. So we've popped along to the Glebe Fishery. Fantastic venue, needs no introduction. We've got the bait, simplest of baits. Hopefully we're going to catch a few carp. Now what I want to do is talk you through my winter approach for fishing with carp with bread. I think there's a few tips and tricks that might help you put a few extra fish in your net. Well, you know what, folks, this place, this venue, and this method, no matter what the conditions, very rarely fails to produce. It's such a brilliant method for catching carp at this time of the year. So we've sat in the middle of pool 9 at the wonderful Glebe complex. And I'm not going to lie, it's not been an easy start because, as always with winter carp fishing, location is the key. And we've had a cast around the peg and we've struggled for maybe an hour or so, but we've finally found a few fish and, oh, that's a lovely fish. And we've been, like I say, trying all different areas of the swim. What I don't want to do is go to the honey hole straight away when I'm winter fishing. I like to work my way to that spot and try and get to that little area of the swim, you know, at the right time of day. So that's what I've done today. And okay, you might not catch early on, but what I'm hoping to do is catch more fish later on, maybe in that glory time of the day, early afternoon, when hopefully if you get a little bit of sun, the sun's at its highest, the water's in theory maybe warms up a degree or two and those fish start feeding. But we've had a few fish. Let's hold this guy up for you. We've had a few fish and they've all been really nice fish. They're absolutely freezing cold. Just like this fella, he's like a block of ice. I mean, we had a really cold night last night, so it's no surprise maybe that it took us a while to catch a few fish. But that, if he stays still, is a classic Glebe carp. It's maybe £5–6. Nice to get your string pulled in the winter months. Let's put him back. We're not bothering with a net today, keep net, we'll just put every fish back. It's just nice to get out and get a few bites at this time of year. So what I'd like to do is we'll put a fresh hook length on. There's a reason for that, and I'll talk you through it in a second, because it's quite an important part of this tactic. So I'm going to put a fresh hook length on, and we're going to cast it out. We're going to set everything up, hopefully for another fish. And while I wait for another bite, I'll talk you through my approach for the day. Right, we're all set for another bite. Line's all sunk, that's fishing. So what I want to do is talk you through the approach. Now, kit-wise, I'm starting on a 50cm hook length. That's 0.16. I've got a size 16 hook on, and importantly, I'm using a little push stop on a hair. The hair is about, what is he, 15mm long, something like that. We brought the GoPro in, so hopefully we can get a few close-ups of what we're doing. That's a size 16. You can see there that I've whipped a long way down the shank on the hook. I just feel that keeps everything a little bit more in line. And we've got a pushed up on the end. Now, bait-wise, bread is a fantastic bait at this time of year. It's a bait that I've caught hundreds, if not thousands, of carp on. It's cheap, easy. Pick up a loaf on the way to the venue. You know, you cannot go wrong. It's a proven bait at this time of year. But what I want to do is I want to fish it at a level where these fish are at. Quite often you'll see, you know, if any of you guys have got a garden pond at home, you'll see those fish are so rarely on the bottom of that pond. They're rarely on the bottom of the lake. They sit at a depth they're happy at. And what I want to do is find that depth. A great starting point is to fish at half depth. So we've got about 4 foot of water in front of us, hence the reason I'm using a 50 centimetre hook length to start with. And what I'm doing is I'm popping that bait up off the bottom. Now, to do that, I'm using a little tiny bit of foam. The best foam to use is, and you wouldn't believe this looking at me, you wouldn't think that I ever eat a takeaway because of my sportsman-like figure, but the best foam to use is that styrofoam that you get from a chip tray or a pizza tray, or whenever you order a takeaway and it comes in that crunchy foam, that's the foam to use. And what I like to do is cut out a load of discs, prepare them either the night before or just before a session, cut out a load of discs, the same size of disc that you're going to use as a piece of bread, and that is going to be my way of popping that bait up off the bottom. You only need a few discs because you can keep reusing the disc. You know, it's not going to take up on any water. It doesn't matter if you catch a fish because quite often the disc's still on the hair anyway. You know, you can reuse that disc. Now let's get this hook length ready for my next cast. So this is the reason I like to use 2 separate hook lengths, because while that bait's fishing I can get a hook length ready. Obviously saves time. What I'm doing, I'm using a 10mm punch. You know, some venues where the fish are a little bit smaller, you might want to use a 6mm punch or an 8mm punch, but this is a 10mm punch, and I'm punching out 2 pieces of bread. Onto the quick stop they'll go, onto that hair. So we'll put them on. They go on nicely. I'll follow it on with my little bit of foam. And hopefully you can see we've got the perfect parcel for a winter carp. Now in the past I've used crust to pop the bait up. The only downside with crust is, or there's a couple of downsides to be honest, one of the downsides is it's obviously soft. I want to know that I'm fishing 100% of the time at the right depth. I know that that foam's not going to take on any water like the bread might do. Bread crust, it might eventually take on some water then start to sink. It also might get pecked away by little fish because it's so soft. Also, when I'm casting out with this little bit of foam on, you can see there it's increased the surface area of that quick stop, that push stop. And that means those 2 bits of bread, they're going to stay on. They're going to stay on that hair. They're less likely to fall off on impact with the water. And that for me is a massive bonus. I know then that I'm fishing all of the time effectively. Well, that was interesting. We've had probably about half hour or 40 minutes where we've not had an indication, and I've just had a chuck a long way to the left. It's coming in a bit easy, this fish is. Seems to have woke up now. I've just had a chuck a long way to our left, and had a little indication on the tip, and then the tip has dropped back, which is quite often the case when you're fishing a pop-up. Quite often the fish will sort of like shake its head and then just dislodge the lead, especially when we're fishing on a bit of a shelf over that far side. So the tip dropped back a tiny little bit, then it's just towed round as obviously the fish has realised it's hooked and it's gone away from us. But it just shows how important location was, because we've had a few fish straight in front of us towards the far bank, and then everything went really quiet. Like I say, for quite a long period of time, we just never had an indication on the tip at all, and we've been getting quite a few little line bites and signs of fish. But then as soon as we found that little pod of fish again, you get your bite. I guess that the shoal up so tight at this time of year that even though they don't really want to feed, I guess that there's so many of them there that just the competition between the fish makes them feed. I bet they're looking at that bit of bread, and then another carp comes up and starts looking at it as well, and the carp start looking at each other, and then one of them makes the move. I'm not going to rush the fish because on a 16s hook, which it's probably not what I'd use in the summer months, and these fish, especially under your feet, are still giving a pretty good scrap. Sitting quite high up off the water here, so it makes it a little bit awkward netting your fish. Last few fish have been hooked right in the bottom lip, so maybe that shows that they're dipping down and then dipping down to take the bread, then rising up, and that's when you're getting your indication. But see where this one's hooked. Yeah, so once again, right in the bottom, middle of the bottom lip. I mean, an ideal place to hook your fish if you're going to hook them anywhere. It's very rare they come off when you hook them there. Bit of foam again, look, on the hair still. Another cracking fish. Glebe special. Let's get him back. While we've got a lull in the action, let's talk about kit. Now, I don't really want to deviate too far away from my summer carp fishing gear. It's gear I'm used to fishing with, plus I know that these fish in the glebe, they give their all right to the net. So I want to use kit that I'm confident in, and I want to use robust gear. So that means 10-foot feeder rod. This rod is a Reactor Quartz XZ. It means that it's nice and soft up the top end, but down here we've got some strength. We're not going to bottom the rod out. Sometimes with a really soft rod, the rod bends all the way through, you bottom the rod out, and you're not playing the fish with any sort of forgiveness at all in the end. I fitted the lightest quiver tip to the rod. I want to be looking all those little indications. I'll be watching that tip like a hawk. I'm looking for any sign, any line bite, anything on that tip, any sign that I'm fishing in the right area. I'm casting around the swim, I'm looking for little line bites. That's what's going to tell me if I'm fishing in the right spot. I've got some 6-pound M-Tech reel line on the spool. Again, nice and robust. I know it's not going to let me down. Even I hook the far bank sometimes. It's been known in the past. I want to make sure everything comes back. So using a decent strength main line, that's going to make sure of that. It also sinks nicely as well. Always find a thicker main line sinks a little bit better than a lighter main line. I can get it beneath the surface a lot easier, and it sort of lays along the bottom a little bit better as well. Right, end tackle. I think this is really important. I'm using a little inline bomb. Hopefully you can see that there. This is 20 gram. I don't want to go for something that's really light because I feel that the self-hooking properties just aren't the same. So I think 20 grams about right. I've got a little quick change bead at the bottom that sits inside this bomb, so it makes it sort of a semi-bolt rig. Remember, I'm setting that tip really slack, so I've got to rely on a really sharp hook plus this little semi-bolt rig effect on this lead to hook the fish for me, before I see an indication on the tip. The quick change bead, helps massively. Obviously I'm going to be fishing at all different depths today. I've got some different hook lengths tied up, so I might be fishing a foot off the bottom, I might be fishing 2 foot, 3 foot off the bottom, and by having several different hook lengths tied up, it's just a simple case of getting one prepared while the rod's out fishing, clipping one on and chucking out and hoping for a bite on the next cast. So there's the gear. Like I say, action slowed down a little bit, so it gives us a chance to talk about the kit, but I think resting the peg is massively important. So we've had 10 minutes now talking to you guys. I'm going to chuck out, see if we can catch another fish. Something I always think is just amazing, that even in the winter, the fish still want to feed. The water is absolutely freezing, but you know, if you find the fish, find that pod of fish, they'll definitely still eat. If you put the right bait in front of them at the right depth, they'll still have a go. And it's brilliant at this time of year to get out on the bank and actually catch some fish, and some decent fish too as well, because we've not had many little fish, and quite often when you're chucking bread around on a commercial, it is the bigger fish that you tend to catch, even in the winter. Those bigger fish love a bit of bread. And we've had to cast around today to find the fish, but like I say, when we've found them, we've got indications on the tip, we've had line bites, and you know, they're pretty rubbish at playing hide and seek carp are. You can usually see a little bubble or two on a calm day, and obviously reading your tip is really important. And as soon as you start getting line bites, you get something to work with. God, they're so fit in the whole fishery. Fish at the Glebe are well known for how hard they fight. There we go. Not a big fish. I thought it was going to be a bit bigger than that, but great fun. You can see the foam. You can see the little bit of foam there. Still on the old hair rig, ready for another cast. Nice little common carp, probably like £4. The light's starting to go, so I think that's a fantastic way to finish. Until next time guys, tight lines.